We saw a new record in border crossings, shocking enough, last month. So what is the White House not doing? I want to bring in former acting Secretary of Homeland Security, Chad Wolf. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
All right. So this week, Kamala cackled on some national TV shows about going to the border, and she couldn't. Obviously, she wouldn't say when she's going. She was pushed on it, and instead she just says, "Well, I'm still talking. Don't interrupt me." Wouldn't it be easier for her to just go to the border?
Well, absolutely. She should be at the border. She should have made multiple visits to the border by now, because at the end of the day, that's leadership. And that's what the American people, that's what the law enforcement officers of DHS who are dealing with this crisis day in and day out, every single day, that's what they need along that border. She also needs to visit the border to understand really what are the challenges there. What are, the law enforcement officials experiencing? What are the migrants experiencing? She should be able to talk to migrants that are coming across that border. Are they coming here because they are really seeking or fleeing violence, or are they coming here for economic reasons? It's really important to understand why people are making that journey. And I see really no better way than to talk to the actual people that are making the journey. So going down to that border to visit, to make an appearance, I think satisfies a number of different reasons to do so. And she should be doing it. It's well past the time. And there's absolutely no reason that she shouldn't be there.
Yeah. Well, on her way down to Guatemala, which, geographically you have to fly over the border, so she could have stopped on the way down there. But she went down there and told people not to come. She said, don't come to the country because they'll be turned away. But all their policies point to open borders. What do you say about this?
Well, I agree with you. A couple of points. One is that their messaging is confusing at best. Because if you remember back in March, their message was, you can come, just don't come now. And so now they've gone to a different message, which is don't come. And I can tell you for the vast majority of illegal migrants that are making this journey, first, they don't listen to government officials in any type of messaging. What they listen to are their friends and their family who have made the journey. Are they in the U.S. or are they back home? Right. And if they're in the U.S., that's how they're going to vote, and that's what they're going to do, and that's what they're seeing today is that the vast majority of folks that approach that border illegally remain here in the U.S., and that's the end goal for many of these migrants at the end of the day. And so I would agree with you that the policies and the action on the ground don't match the messaging coming out of the vice president's mouth at the moment.
Right. Illegal immigrants who can only come to America on days that end in Y. This week, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, though, he said that he's going to just carry on with Trump's policy. He's going to build this border wall. I mean, is this viable? Is this doable for local governments financially and physically?
Well, I applaud what Governor Abbott's doing. It shouldn't be the case. The federal government has a role, and it's their responsibility to make sure that American communities are safe, particularly from folks outside of our natural physical boundaries. But what we've seen over the last 4.5 months, 5 months, is the Biden administration is choosing not to enforce border security laws and immigration enforcement laws. So you're going to see states like Texas and Arizona and others along that border have to step up to protect their citizens, protect their territory, and do what the federal government should be doing. It shouldn't be that way. But in the absence of leadership, in the absence of the federal government actually trying to secure our border, you're going to continue to see states and other communities bear the cost and bear the brunt of it. And like I said, I applaud what Governor Abbott's doing. He shouldn't have to do that, but this is a situation that we're in.
Yeah, I mean, you would imagine that the federal government would protect the United States of America, where states would protect states. And unfortunately, Texas is just going to have to pick up the slack where it's not being enforced. Now, you talked a little bit about earlier, if you're here and you stay here, they're going to try to transition you into citizenship. But what are the real consequences? I'm talking for the dude who owns the store 5 miles off the border in town, the local economies, the state economies, and even the federal economy. What are the actual consequences of illegal immigration that we're not hearing enough about?
Yeah, so I would say there's two things here. There's the immediate implications and cost, right? And so those go from a security standpoint of communities along that border and really states along that border is you're going to have to absorb thousands and thousands of individuals that you haven't accounted for. And so that's both from a public safety standpoint, but just also from a public service standpoint. How does your infrastructure kind of be able to handle the influx of individuals? And it's not like your tax base is going up. It's not like they have more money to address this issue. They're going to have to do it within the fiscal constraints that they already have. So that's the immediacy. And then there's the security aspect of it, of what's going on there and how law enforcement is being overwhelmed. And then you got to think about the long-term aspects. And so when you have 30,000 minors coming across that border in a 2-month span, and you just continue to multiply that, what does that do to the public school system across the country where a lot of these migrants are going? Obviously, English is going to be a second language. So what kind of stress does that put on teachers in these public schools? And then you can go on and on and on with public services that are going to be needed to care for these populations in the long run.